Hello, my name is Mathias, and welcome to a video where we are going to talk about some of the new players coming into the Premier League and that are new to fantasy Premier League managers across the world. So I brought in the expert on new players, and that is Kevin. He writes most of these reviews for the FPL guide that we have on the site, and Kevin is going to talk about his 5 favorite players out of the new players that have never played really in the Premier League before. So we haven't done, for example, Declan Rice, who's moved from West Ham to Arsenal. We haven't talked about him, or we don't have him in the guide because he is still a Premier League player. He has played in the Premier League before. So Kevin's going to talk about the new boys. But anyways, Kevin, it's been a while since we talked on this channel, at least. Like we've talked every day, pretty much. Other than that, but how have you been since the last time? I know you have shaved and you have gotten some of the beard back. So how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, pretty hopeful for the season. It's just been a fun couple of weeks in the sense of just football transfers happening left and right. I think it's been a very active summer, a lot of rumors, a lot of cool things that could play out for almost every club involved. I don't think there's been a single club where I've been like, oh, that's kind of boring. But most clubs are actually doing some fun business, and it's exciting. It says a lot about the appeal of the Premier League, where Dan Juma's like, okay, you know what? Let's try this Everton thing. Fuck it, let's go. And yeah, I'm pretty optimistic towards the season just as a whole because with the new influx of players, there's going to be hopefully a bit of a seismic switch in terms of um, what we can see out of players and stuff like that. Because I felt like last year everything just felt way too template. It was just like
Yeah.
you have to have Brighton, you have to have this, you have to have that. And I'm hoping some of these players that we will be going in more detail about in just a second will add some spice to FPL proceedings.
Yeah, because there are not a lot of new players that are really popular in this game. Like Holland was really popular last season, but this season, I think Nkunku is like the third most popular striker. We didn't talk about him because we really like him as well. But
Hmm.
apart from him, I don't really see that many. Like, I mean, Flecken is in some teams as a goalkeeper for Brentford, but like in terms of attacking players, I don't really see that many new players at all. It's mostly like the tried and true normal players. But we've seen in seasons past, like Salah came in 9.0, was fantastic straight away. Bruno Fernandes was 8.5, I think, was fantastic straight away. Like players can do that, and I know, especially with likes of Nkunku, people are a bit jaded with like Timo Werner and Kai Havertz and stuff, so they sort of have that stink, put that stink on Nkunku. But I think there are a lot of good players, and we're going to talk about them right now, really. So yeah, let's just move into the guide. So this is something that Kevin and I do every summer. We make a big ass Premier League or Fantasy Premier League guide each season, and this season is no different. So we have a couple of squad suggestions, and we have some new manager reviews. We have starting lineups for all 20 teams, set piece takers for all 20 teams, and stuff like that. But what we're going to talk about today is the new players reviews. So we're going to go to that straight away. You can just click that, and you go straight down to the list of new players. We even have Josko Guardiola, who hasn't properly been confirmed to Man City, but he has been here we go by Romano, and that's sort of my benchmark for adding new players. But the first new player at the top of the list, this is ranked by how the teams did last season. So obviously City are up top, Arsenal came number 2, and then there are no new Man United players on notes, right? They have bought Mount. He's an old player. They don't really have anyone interesting either, but that I can think of. Have they signed anyone else? They have Mount, Onana.
Yeah,
We definitely should have an Onana review, so that's coming up pretty soon. But
yeah.
anyways, he's not one we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Sandro Tonali though, because he's one of the players you wanted to highlight, and he's not really that popular of a fancy Premier League pick, and a lot of people are thinking he's like a traditional sort of like a number 6 type of player, so he's not going to be that involved. It's not going to be that interesting. But why have you thought about Tonali, and why is he someone that you would like to highlight?
I see a lot of people are trying to, pinch pennies when it comes to their midfield dilemma because all of us want to just load up on 6.5 midfielders and stuff like that. And I think if there's anyone besides Botman, Isak slash Wilson, because I think Kieran Trippier has been priced out, unfortunately. I, especially considering the last half of the season last year. I thought he was terrible. So I
Yeah.
think he's lost a lot of stock, generally speaking, as well. So Tonali, I think, has the potential to completely explode. I think Newcastle have a lot of exciting players that work in the sort of way that Tonali is used best, which is to press quickly, get the ball forward, and hit out to either. I mean, I would have said Saint Max, but now he's gone to Al Hilal, who would have been a perfect sort of Liao, replacement in the sense of like he'd have that fast winger to the left, he'd have that player to the right that he can spray the balls to, and I think that yes, Tonali's projections are quite low, but we are both aware that he can explode into something even bigger and better, and especially because his corners for both Italy and AC Milan are exceptional to the
Mhm.
point where I think he's just as good as Trippier, if not better, with his some of his set pieces. I don't think he scores enough free kicks, which he used to do, but I can still see now finally there's a real competition for Trippier, not to just take everything by default. And if that's the case, and then Tonali eventually becomes the number one set piece taker for Newcastle, all of these projections can definitely go a bit higher.
Yeah, but like at the top end of the projections, because this is something we do for all players, we have like goal projections, like the low number and the high number. But the high number for Tonali, both in terms of goals and assists, is 6 goals and 9 assists. And if he ends with that, then that's a fantastic season for a 5.5 midfielder. So he could potentially be a fantastic player, but he hasn't really been a popular FPL pick, and it hasn't really been a popular transfer either. I've seen a lot of people say that Newcastle have overpaid and stuff for him, but are you of the same thought with Tonali? Obviously, he's been touted as like the next Pirlo, but the next Pirlo, I would definitely pay, what was it, 70, 60 million for?
Yeah,
I think
exactly. I
Tonali
mean,
is great, but what do you think about his whole price in general and his fit with Newcastle in total?
I think he's going to be exactly what they need in regards to you can't expect a right back to do all the creative work. And I think having a midfielder who is, I mean, it sounds like I'm trying to disrespect Bruno G, but I'm not. He is, Sandro Tonali is much more creative than Bruno. He's not as good of a shooter, but he is much more creative. And I think they need that from the middle of the park. He's 80 million more that, or he's not actually 80 million more, but in the sense that he's 80 million times better than Joe Willock. I'm sorry, I have to say it.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be perfect for what they're trying to achieve. And I think Eddie Howe is just salivating over the fact that he has such a huge talent as Tonali. I think Tonali's great. Yes, he might not be the most FPL relevant right now because we still need to see how he's actually going to get on and etc. But I think at 5.5, he could be a very interesting sneaky pick, especially if something were to happen to Trippier as well. Then he's 100% on all set pieces. So, yeah, keep an eye out.
Yeah, I think definitely you should keep an eye out for Tonali. He's definitely an interesting player. I like that you highlighted him as well because not many people are talking about him. So I think that's fun. And the next player is also someone that hasn't really been talked that much about in terms of FPL, but we know that with the team that he plays for and what he has produced previously as well, he could be a fantastic player for 7.0. I'm going to let you do the pronunciation because I've tried that a couple times. But yeah, what do you think of Liverpool's new attacking midfielder?
Yeah, so Dominik Szoboszlai is fantastic. I think I'm very saddened, but that both McAllister and Szoboszlai, two huge players that I've liked for longer than Liverpool signing both of them. Fuck Liverpool. But yeah, two players that I've hugely admired, both quality players. But I think Soboslai is fantastic. I see a lot of comparisons to Kevin De Bruyne, which is flattering because
Yeah.
we all know KDB is that guy. But it's just more that I think it's sort of a fair assessment to what he's able to do. Just a attacking superstar and can create from literally nothing, can shoot from distance, can use both feet. I've I'm really bummed out that Liverpool signed him. But I think in terms of FPL, I think there's again, he is one of those sort of guys that if he gets to play and start the amount of matches that we think he will, he's going to explode for Liverpool. I think Liverpool have such a luxury problem. It's crazy. The fact that they have Luis Diaz, him, Salah, and then McAllister, and Thiago, and this guy, and that
Gakpo.
guy, Diogo Jota.
Uh,
There's just so
too
many
many.
attacking players. That's the only worry I have for Soboslai. But the thing about Soboslai is I think compared to some of the other guys that we mentioned, he's way more all around. So, like, I think Diaz is very good at, his pace and sort of creativity. Gakpo is really good at his finishing. Jota is, always injured but scores all the time when he gets to play. Salah is Mr. Consistent, regardless of what people try to give him shit for. And yeah, and Szoboszlai is sort of somewhere in the middle. He seems like the perfect Firmino replacement. He's not a striker. He's not, but he's willing to give everything for the team. And I think even though sometimes you might look at his years and be like, oh, he didn't get that many goals and assists for Leipzig, he still got them going. And yeah, I think he's just a fantastic signing. And yeah, for Leipzig, he took a bunch of set pieces. I don't think Trent is looking to stop taking free kicks and corners, but at least the potential is there. Especially the fact that he's 7.0, if you want to go for something a bit cheaper than some of the other options for Liverpool. He's a good pick.
Yeah, I think he's going to take free kicks from pretty far out. If they're going to shoot from far out, I think he's a better free kick taker from there. Maybe not closer. That maybe Trent will get it from at least certain positions. If you want to go with power, then Szoboszlai is the man to go with because his shot power is fantastic. So, but yeah, I think you touched on something there as well with the amount of Liverpool attacking players, but I think Szoboszlai has an advantage compared to all the other ones because they play one of the three positions up front, like either left wing, striker, or right wing. Well, right wing is Salah, but they mostly play left wing or striker, those other players. Nkunku can play in the same position as Szoboszlai, as like the number 10, but Jota doesn't really play that much as number 10. Darwin definitely doesn't play as number 10. And then Diaz plays as a winger. He doesn't really play as number 10 either. He could play there, I guess, but I think Szoboszlai is like the most nailed player in that number 10 spot, and I don't think he has that much competition. Obviously McAllister can play there as well, but they don't have any midfielders left pretty much defensively. Like they're currently playing Trent as the DM every single, like not even as an inverted fullback, but they're playing him as a DM, like proper DM with 4 defenders behind him. But yeah, as long as they don't get any other midfielders, I feel like Szoboszlai is going to be pretty nailed in the team actually as the number 10, and we have him with 29 games started, and yeah, that could lead to a lot of good points for Szoboszlai. But yeah, that's the question with me, for me with Szoboszlai. That's from the start. Do you think he'll be nailed from the start, or do you think he has to be eased in, or what do you think of? Because managers are really different when it comes to these types of things. Because I think Klopp is kind of more plug and play. No, I feel like you saw Gakpo last season. He had a lot of competition for places, but he just came straight in and took over and started. So what do you think for Szoboszlai? Do you think he'll be eased in, or do you think he'll be from the get-go be the starting player for Liverpool?
I think he'll be a starter. I mean, media's made such a huge deal about how well he's been doing in training and stuff like that because apparently they did like a bleep test or something, and he absolutely blew everyone out of the water. So, doing stuff like that and generating good buzz is always a good start. And like you said, Klopp isn't the type of guy who's shy about starting their new signings and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
for me, I think he'll get the chance. I mean, Luis Diaz was so unlucky to get injured when he did because he would have been starting left winger for them the entire time, sort of thing. So yeah, I think there's no way that Szoboszlai doesn't start, in my opinion. And I think if Klopp's a good manager, he would start Szoboszlai.
Yeah, and I think Szoboszlai, even if it doesn't play as number 10, maybe they play McAllister in that role. He can
Yeah,
play like a striker. He can play as a winger. He can play pretty much every position. So
yeah.
he's really versatile as well. And I think that's going to be a huge plus for FPL. But I think we're both kind of in the same boat. And I think a lot of other people should think this way too, because there are so many potentially fantastic Liverpool options with Jota, Gakpo, Darwin Núñez, like we said previously as well, Luis Diaz. Those 4 players could all be really good, but we don't really know who's going to be the great player out of them. But we know that Salah is going to be fantastic from the start of the season. We know Salah is going to be nailed in the team. So we both currently have Salah in our squads. And for me, I feel like the best tactic is to have Salah at least for the first 2 game weeks. And then you can assess and see if you want to get Szoboszlai, if you want to get Jota, if you want to get Luis Diaz, those types of guys. So that's my tactic at least. But I think Szoboszlai is among those players who could be really good in that position or for that price point. So yeah, I think he's a great player as well. Looking forward to see him play in the Premier League in general. But yeah, moving on to the next guy, and this is the newest signing in the whole game pretty much, and that is Moussa Diaby, who is a previous favorite of mine when I used to play Pro Evolution Soccer back in the day. He was like one of the best players there in that game. So I'm really excited to see him in the Premier League. But what can you tell us about Moussa Diaby and Aston Villa? His fit with Aston Villa as well.
I think the thing about Moussa Diaby is I'm so disappointed he went to Aston Villa. I say that very jealously, of course, and not to upset any Villa fans. It's just more that Moussa Diaby is good enough to potentially play for the top four clubs in England. Could easily have gone to Bayern and done an amazing job there, or Dortmund. Um, he could have easily. I mean, obviously, Barcelona, Real Madrid is a hard team to get into, but he has that sort of potential and that sort of talent. So it's a bit frustrating to see him then just go for the lure of the Premier League. But Aston Villa are cooking. I like a lot of the signings they're making. Pau Torres, especially, I think he's head and shoulders above both Diego Carlos and Tao Mings and all these other sort
Konsa.
of. So yeah, I'm I'm still in shock, to be completely honest, that he agreed to that when Saudi money was showered at him. But fair enough. I mean, the thing I can say about Diaby is super creative, super fast, can shoot really well, is usually amongst the sort of double digits gang. Like he normally gets double digits goals and assists. And I know in the Prem, some of these things get nerfed depending on the season, depending on coach, everything like that. Things can go up and down. But I still think that if you have a 6.5 midfielder who gets double digit returns, he's had an amazing season. So I still think he has that potential, especially due to the fact that they've added the correct players. But it remains to be seen whether he can gel into the Prem. But that being said, I've seen what he can do for Leverkusen. I know that he's this close into breaking into the France squad as well and really making a name for himself. But I think a good place to start is with Aston Villa and to show everyone that he's got what it takes. And if I'm not mistaken, they're in the Conference League this year.
Yeah, they are. Hopefully
So I
they don't
think,
win it. Hopefully,
yeah,
but
I think,
Emery is probably going to win it. That's the thing.
yeah, he always goes for a tournament like that. So yeah, I think he's going to be one to watch for sure. I can't state this enough. I think Moussa Diaby is one of the best signings of the whole summer.
Yeah, that's why it's featured in this video as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
the reason that I say that I don't hope Villa win the Conference League is because I'm a West Ham fan and I want it to be more special that West Ham won it. So if a Premier League team wins it every single season, it's going to feel less and less special that West Ham did it. But what are you going to say? We're the champions of Europe, so it doesn't really matter. But anyways, Diaby, I really like him as well. 6.5, I think he's super cheap. I mean, there's a lot of good 6.5 midfielders, so he's just one of a bunch of them. I mean, Harvey Barnes got added to the game as well for 6.5, and I know you really like Harvey Barnes as well. He's obviously not a new player to FPL, but he's fantastic. You have Mitoma for 6.5, you have Mbuemo for 6.5, you have Eberechi Esse for 6.5. So many good 6.5 midfielders, and even for 6.0 you can get Ramsey from Villa as well. He's obviously injured to start the season, but yeah, Diaby, really excited to watch him play. His first step, like his acceleration is so good, and he's so good with the ball as well, so really looking forward to see him play. So yeah, I think he's also a fantastic new player. You mentioned Pau Torres. We just touched on him. We're not going to dwell more into him. He was sort of almost picked for this top 5 thing, but we went with Szoboszlai instead. So instead, we have two players left out of the 5 that we've picked, and both are playing for the same team. And the first one is someone that is very much overlooked so far. Maybe not so much now after being so fantastic in preseason, but Nicolas Jackson. What can you say about Nicolas Jackson?
I mean, I think my review says it perfectly. It's crazy to me that Chelsea got someone this talented on top of Nkunku, who they've been working to sign since forever. Everything I've seen on Nicolas Jackson is something I want all strikers to strive for, and that is to put the team above everything else. He is the type of player who would, if he's one on one with the goalkeeper and he sees that the teammate is actually in the best position, he will pass it almost 9 out of 10 times. Obviously, he's a striker, so he will try and score. But I've never seen, it's been a long time since I've seen a center forward, a striker, um, play so unselfishly. Like he really, really does everything for the team. I've seen him create many more chances than what's expected of a striker, and for his teammates to squander it. And that was in Villarreal. So, considering the fact that he's now playing for Chelsea with better offensive players under a decent manager and stuff like that, I think we're going to see Nicolas Jackson score a lot of or get a lot of assists and also score a lot because it's sort of a symbiotic thing. When you're assisting a lot as a striker, you tend to score a lot too. So I think it's going to be a really fun sort of duo because I also think Nicolas Jackson is perfect for Nkunku and Nkunku is perfect for Nicolas Jackson. Having two players who play right behind each other and are as selfless as they are, their combination play is going to be crazy. Like I'm hoping. I mean, obviously, for my brother's sake, I
He's a
know
Chelsea
he's going
fan.
to be hoping. He's going to hope that this becomes the new Fabregas slash
Diego Costa.
Diego Costa sort of thing, where it's like goal Costa assist Fabregas,
Yeah,
or how it was this year, which was goal Haaland assist De Bruyne. So
yeah,
I think Nicholas Jackson is super underrated. I think he is just a fantastic talent. I'm really cool. Like I wrote this before the
yeah,
preseason stuff, and it's really fun to see that he's living up to the hype. He's gotten
definitely.
a lot of assists, and he's showing exactly why I been admirer of his since the beginning of last season. Because yeah, I really like players who, again, putting the team above everything else. I think that's something that's been lacking, especially in Everton. My God, some of the players that I see play, I'm like, you guys don't care about this club or your teammates. You're just here for a paycheck. And it's fun to see that. And I think it's something that Chelsea actually need. They need a player like this who's capable of, you know, taking the burden of the team and just be like, look, I'm going to try and get all of you guys going. I don't care how. I'm the striker, but I'll drop in deep. He does all these things that you would expect a absolute superstar on the top of their game would do, but he just does it from get go. And I think he could develop into a really, really, really good striker. I'd love to see him just be a bit more selfish in front of goal, um, because I think at the moment, as I projected as well, I feel like he's like a 10 to 16 sort of goal scorer, but he has all the capabilities in the world to make that into a 20
Mm.
or even 30
Oh yeah,
goals. Like I have a lot of faith in Nicholas Jackson, but
yeah,
it all depends. It all depends on just how he's willing to take his talent. Because like Mbappe, when I saw him first play, for example, this is obviously a generational talent,
yeah,
but when I first saw Mbappe play, he played with such maturity and stuff like that. Said maturity that's left his game a little bit
yeah.
now, and that's sort of cost him a little bit. But
Mm.
if Nicholas Jackson can keep this up, I'm not saying he's going to become better than Mbappe, but it will lead to having a really successful career.
Yeah. Like you said, or just for me, like I didn't really know that much about Nicholas Jackson at all when Chelsea were about to sign him. Like I barely had heard of him and stuff. But then I heard you talk about him, and you wrote this. Like you said, I was going to mention it if you didn't, but you wrote this before the preseason games, and I was kind of surprised. Like I thought he was just going to be like a proper normal number 9 striker and then like be pretty clinical. That's what I've had heard before. But then I saw you writing that he was like such a good teammate and so unselfish and so good with passing and stuff. And then I watched the preseason games, and that's exactly who he is. Like he has had some fantastic involvement so far in the preseason, and he looks fantastic as well as a striker. 7.0, I think it's really nothing. I think he's someone to really take note of, and I think he's going to be the starting striker for them. I feel like he's going to be the striker rather than the next guy we're going to talk about, and that is his partner up front. We've touched on him just now, but that is Christopher Nkunku, who might be your favorite new player out of all of them because he's currently still in your team, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He's in my team.
yeah,
Oh man, I've said this once. I've say it again. If Nkunku was fit for France in the World Cup, I'm sorry. I always wanted Messi to win the World Cup, and he did. So fuck all Ronaldo fans. But I do stand by the fact that I think if Nkunku was fit for the World Cup, it would have been a different outcome. That's how good I think Nkunku is. And considering the fact that he was injured for 2 months last year and still won the top goal scorer,
Yeah.
it's just incredible. It says a lot about just the character that he is, the fact that he was able to bounce back, and he is just a wonderful talent. I can't believe that PSG ever let go of this guy.
Yeah.
And what else can I say about him? He can do everything. He legitimately can score with both feet. I've seen him chip with his left foot. I've seen him chip with his right. Score from distance with his left, score from distance with his right. He takes corners, he takes free kicks, and scores free kicks as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who take free kicks, but like hardly ever score them. But he's one of those guys that scores quite regularly as well. So, and if you keep track of the preseason, scored in every game so far, looked good. He has to shake off a little bit of rust compared to some of these other guys who have been playing more consistently, considering the fact that he had an injury. But nah, this is perfection. I think this is going to be basically Christian Eriksen on crack in the sense of if you think about Pochettino's time
Yeah.
at Spurs, he always had a creative midfielder in Eriksen, and even Eriksen was at some points an FPL asset. But this is going to be that, but on crack because he's also going to take penalties, and
Mhm.
he is just unbelievably good. I think the best way to really put it is I think unless Pochettino really screws this up, I think, and this is a bold prediction, I think Nkunku could have a similar season to Salah when Salah came back to Liverpool. Maybe not as like I don't even remember. Like Salah went absolutely ham, but
Yeah.
like I think it's gonna be like at least like the lowest I've projected is 12-5. I still think he's gonna be double digits this season.
Yeah.
And that's a very good start considering the fact that Chelsea have been dog shit for
Yeah.
over a year.
Yeah. Definitely. He's also probably on penalties. We think they don't have Jorginho anymore in Chelsea. They sold Mount. They don't have Havertz. People have been mentioning like Reece James might be on penalties, but no, Nkunku is going to take penalties rather than Reece James. Especially if you look at his
Yeah.
penalty record as well, it's pretty good. So yeah, I think Nkunku is also definitely someone I'm considering as well. It's just the first two fixtures for Chelsea are not the best, so I might hold off. But he can still easily score against Liverpool, and he can score against West Ham second game. He can definitely score against West Ham. But yeah, Nkunku is fantastic. I think we saved the best for last as well. Like you said, he's in your team. He's in strong consideration for me. He's in like 20% of teams, I think, or something like that, in terms of total ownership percentage. So people know that he's good, but people might not know just how good he is. And I think that's been brilliantly elaborated on by you. So thank you for all the new inputs on all the players, Kevin. And yeah, we can look forward to more reviews as the players keep on joining Premier League clubs. Looking forward to see your review for Carlos Borges, who might join West Ham now from Man City. We're definitely going to make that Onana review. We're going to look and see if there are some other reviews. I think Malo Gusto is definitely someone else we want to talk a little bit about, because he might be a really important player at some points this season. The last video before this, you haven't seen this, Kevin, because I haven't posted it yet, but it's me talking about 12 potential game-breaking players, and Malo Gusto is one of them. If Reece James gets injured, he's one of those guys that can completely break the whole template, really. So yeah, but anyways, thank you for this video. Thank you for all the input, Kevin. And yeah, we'll be back pretty soon. Hopefully next time we are speaking on a podcast together. We also have Kimo here, our final member of the group. We still haven't talked to him this preseason. I still haven't talked to him in private even about FPL. I know he really likes to make up his own thoughts and stuff and make up his own team. So it'll be interesting to see what Kimo has in store as well. But anyways, that has been this video with the new player reviews. So thank you, Kevin. I'll leave you with the last word as always.
Had to think here. Mount has been terrible in preseason.
Fair enough.